This work is also transformative. I wanted to ask you, what does cultural transformation actually look like?
Yeah. It's hard to say because, I mean, in an organization, there's hard power and there's soft power. Hard power is the power that we see. It's the power that's bestowed on leaders to hire, fire, set vision, set strategy.
Yep.
All fantastic and great. There's also soft power in an organization, which is the power that individuals have to influence other individuals. That power is not confined to an org structure. And so you can have individuals who have tons of influence that are not high up on an organization. Peter Drucker once said that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Ooh.
You can have the most defined, well thought out strategy and game plan if your culture, the norms that exist around the rules that govern how people treat each other, how people see each other, how people relate to each other, if those rules are not unifying and inclusive, your strategy will fail. And so when I say culture transformation, what I'm speaking to is the set of norms that exist in an organization that says who can do what, who is in, who is out, what are the boundaries for how we treat each other, how we show up, how we don't show up. And again, that work transcends the label of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is about creating a set of rules that allows you to execute. And so it's about relationships. It's about perspective. It's about empathy. It's about self-awareness. That is the sauce that allows teams to actually do their best work.
Yeah. You know, that's so interesting. I saw an interview with the founder of Netflix, and they were talking about their manifesto.
Yeah.
One of them, which I believe is that they do not tolerate or allow for brilliant jerks. They come a dime a dozen.
Yep.
You are brilliant, a genius, but you're a jerk. And I think that they understood that that jerk could absolutely crumble morale, could have such a terrible blow to culture.
Right.
And so we can't have that here.
Right.
And this literally is taught in business schools now.
That's so powerful. I mean, one of the first things I do when I go into companies is I ask, who are the sacred cows? Who are the individuals that are exempt from this culture transformation work that we're doing? That irrespective of their response to this, how they show up, that they will be protected.
Yeah.
And it says a lot about, you know, what can actually get done with whether or not you are protecting individuals because they are rainmakers and because they are contributing to the organization from a revenue perspective. But part of the argument that I am making is that the negative impact of having someone at an organization at a very high level is sometimes higher than the amount that they bring in from a revenue perspective or the relationships that they have with clients. And we see it all the time in advertising. Like, you know, people who are really challenging in the way that they, show up, but they have a relationship with a client that is theirs and is meaningful for the business.
We just tiptoe around that. Right.
Yeah.
How does this game create room or space for tough conversations?
You know, one of the difficult things to do is to talk about your experience with being hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have 3 sisters and we're all adults. And even to this day, it's hard to talk about the moments when we were younger when, you know, she did this thing or I did this thing. And, you know, we carry that. And as adults, it's hard to talk about that. You then bring the smartest people in a company together and ask them to show their soft white underbelly. Like it is just not an easy thing to do. And so taking on identities is just a really powerful way of creating a degree of remove that allows people to talk about a situation that they have a relationship with, but they are not talking about that specific interaction. And so a lot of times people are sitting next to their aggressor on a team. Mm-hmm. They are sitting next to the individual who is making their experience at the organization really difficult. This game allows them to talk about the dynamic without specifically talking about the interaction, right? Mm-hmm. And the dynamics that we're talking about is boundary setting. The dynamics we're talking about is self-awareness. It's lack of autonomy. It's micromanaging. And outside of this game, how does it happen? You know, one of the just most beautiful pieces of insights that we have gotten from Bias Hurts, from that research where we collect all of those stories, is for every story that someone submits, we ask, what did you do after the biased interaction? Oh. Did you tell a coworker? Did you keep it to yourself? Did you go to HR? Did you keep it to yourself and eventually quit? And what we found is that most of the time, individuals are not saying anything to anyone. Yeah. And so for a lot of people, playing this game is the first time that they can signal, talk about, raise the idea that there is a dynamic taking place on the team that is not conducive to collaboration and is not conducive to a sense of belonging. And it's unfortunate that our HR functions don't allow that to happen. Our peer groups in our teams don't allow that. And, you know, when we were working in advertising, part of what we were trying to do with these ERG groups was creating space for some of these stories to be told, some of these platforms for some of these voices to be heard. Outside of that, it's bones that are being buried that people are not returning to.
Wow.
This is heavy content.
It is.
But what I will say, is part of the evolution over the game over the years. You know, first it was Bias Hurts. Then it became Full Circle. I don't know if you remember the Full Circle game.
I don't know if I remember that one.
It was Full Circle for a while. And then it became the viewing deck. And through each one of those iterations, we sort of made sure that the game was light enough and buoyant enough to not feel like a spanking, to not feel as though we're ambushing people.
You know, I was going to say there's no finger pointing in it, so it's okay for the aggressor to be right next to you. Yet you're doing some transformative
Certainly. It took a long time. It took a long time for that element for me to recognize that that was something that we really need to address, is that sometimes even putting forward something that is rational and true and right doesn't mean that people are going to receive it in that way. And so the skin, the look and feel, the aesthetic had to be one that was light enough, playful enough, fun enough that people didn't feel like this was, you know, an experience where it would be just a bunch of emotional trapdoors that we were just setting for people to feel, you know, terrible about being white or terrible about being, you know, a number of other different things.
Yep. All right. So looking ahead.
Yes.
Right now, the viewing deck is rolling out to Clue's ecosystem. But what's the bigger vision?
Yeah, right now, the viewing deck is being rolled out to all of our clients. We've been playing this game for years with clients, and so they are sort of pretty aware of it. But we're rolling out internally to our ecosystem, all of our clients, all of the folks that we've ever talked to. The bigger picture is we're rolling this out to market to all industries.
Nice.
Eventually, we will create industry-specific games with scenarios tailored for that industry. And so,
pick up on the nuances.
100%.
Yes.
So we're from advertising.
Yep.
We know in our bones what those scenarios are around in terms of being in situations that you had to sort of make a choice on how you show up that were either discriminatory or, bias and so forth. And so eventually we will create industry-specific games. Advertising is a game that is definitely high up on that list. I come from education, and so creating a version that speaks to the K-12 and the higher ed market is also something that is on our radar as well.
Love that. Where do you see the viewing deck in 5 years from now?
I see the viewing deck as a key part of retreats and all staffs and summits and conferences as a way to sort of either bookend or punctuate these moments where teams and people or constituencies are getting together to either celebrate or to unpack. Museum shops, gift stores, on the shelves of game stores, everywhere. But the problem that we're ultimately trying to solve is how can you gain better perspective and have that perspective give you advantages in the work that you are doing and the people that you're supporting. So everywhere that is needed, that is where we want to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
So after all this work, what's the biggest thing you've learned about bias and about people? This is the final thought.
Yeah. What have I learned about bias and about people? I have learned to extend more grace to individuals than is my instinct. My instinct as a Black man living in this country for the amount of years that I've been living in this country is to be defensive, to be closed off, and to be guarded. In order to do this work, I've had to become more comfortable with extending grace to the individuals who I know that are not at the stage in their journey that I may be in or the person sitting next to them. And it has allowed me, a great deal of clarity. And so, one of the hardest things when I started this work was not being filled with rage. I had a hard time.
It's easy to go there.
Oh my gosh. I had a hard time reading these stories. I had a hard time going into these organizations and feeling as though I was being brought in as a checklist where there was no interest in really the organization interrogating their beliefs and values. I just felt so angry.
Yeah.
And it has been a process of transforming that anger and that rage into something that is lighter. Rage and anger is a heavy burden to carry. Joy is a lot lighter. Grace is a lot lighter. And so I've been sort of conditioning my instincts to be more joy-filled and to extend more grace.